Check, yo. We still here? Still going strong, yeah? Are you down with Zuby? Yeah. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. 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 I've been on the rhyme since I made a first appearance. I've been on the grind, never waited for the clearance. Life is all the time, so I'm gonna live it fearless. Yeah, and people gonna hear this. Made a little name with a vision and coherence. Never been a lame, now I'm closer to a genius. Knowledge in my brain, chalk it up to the experience. Still I'm not rich, but at least I ain't broke. Never sell dreams, cause I'd rather sell hope. People so lost in the mirrors and the smoke, think I'd be a realer bloke if I said I sold dope. Nope. But my fans will tell you that I'm awesome. I started selling and they bought them. I told them get them and I got them. So if you want dope bars, that's not a problem. It's time to put the needles on the wax. Rock hard like I got the Beatles in the back. Go soft, make it easy living off the map. Or I can go hard like a freaking cheetah on the track. I'm grinding from a zero to a stack. And I'm talking about De Niro getting jacked. If Wakanda needs a new king, I'ma go hard to be the leader of the pack. A needle in a stack, and I'm feeling to attack. Not a baller, no T'Challa, but a hero and I'm black. I'm an eagle to a rat, rebel demon on a track. I'm a scholar and a brawler, you don't feel it if you're whack. You're always talking evil in your rap, and I'm trying to put my meanings on the map. I gave you 12 rules for life and kept my room clean. I'm the Jordan Peterson of rap. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. And I believe what I prophesize, so I don't apologize. Unless I do wrong, I don't bow to the mob, I don't live to antagonize. But they say I'm too outspoken. They wonder if I'm joking. Look, a little bit is jest, but I say what I feel, man, I'm real and I'm open. Trust in God, but I live in the physical. Selfish thoughts, but I give in the lyrical. Thought cops hot, want my speech to be criminal. Lies get fought when I speak the political. I am not left wing, I am not right wing. I just know all these things I know. You cannot label me, you can't put shame on me. When I say go means go. Fresh, I step into the premises, kick dope rhymes and they love how I'm expressing it. Hop online and reply to all the messages. Gotta spend time and I'm grateful that you cherish it. Don't talk crap, no, I'd rather be irrelevant. Can't play dumb, people know that I'm intelligent. See me up late night, big beard, let 'em in. 12 years deep now, I'm flowing like a veteran. Dudes show love, now I'm moving up in eminence. Girls show love cause they're feeling all the pleasantness. Got huge dreams, I can never be a pessimist. Too much love, I can never be a feminist. Girl, stop looking all incredulous. I am not a bad man, I am not your nemesis. Always had a mega drive, take it back to Genesis. Worked so hard, time to reap a couple benefits. Yeah, I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance.
Good afternoon or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, you drink water, I drink anarchy. 37 seconds in. Cohen, I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's great.
Fantastic.
So, guys, first and foremost.
First and foremost, allow me to thank Justin for pouring me the kava I am drinking on today's episode.
And allow me to thank Kroger for this delicious, purified drinking water that I'm drinking now. Buluvanaka.
Buluvanaka. I just noticed your shirt.
Don't make me spit on my computer.
Oh my God.
Guys.
Did you put that on before?
Yeah. No, I put it on during the thing. So guys, this show is brought to you by personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
That's right. Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, is bringing you this shirt or this show.
And this shirt.
And this shirt. He definitely brought me this shirt.
And he definitely brought me this shirt.
Oh, that's great. For anybody who doesn't know Chris Reynolds, professional injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, this is his law firm that I'm wearing the shirt of, and Spike is wearing him on his shirt.
So, guys, funny story. Matt was talking about how we should promote Chris Reynolds, and I thought that's a great idea. And before I got a chance to actually talk with Matt about how one would do something like that, he told me he had a Chris Reynolds shirt. I wasn't going to be able to get one in time for that, so I did an even better thing. I did this.
God, I hope Chris watches this.
If there's any episode for him not to miss, it would be this. It would be this one. Yes, that's correct.
Right. Yeah, just every Chris Reynolds, professional injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, everywhere on this episode.
This is the Muddied Waters of personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
That's right.
I have to sit upright the whole time so that you get his beautiful smile.
Can I love it?
I gotta get my chest out like this the whole show.
I might be able to do that. Yeah, there we go. More Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
We need more Chris Reynolds. This episode is all about Chris Reynolds, personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
Right. I've got a fever, and professional injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, is the only cure.
The only prescription I need is personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
That's right.
Some would say that he's the chosen one. And speaking of which, there's one person who might disagree with personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
That's right.
He'd be wrong, but he would say that. I'm doing this so I can read what's on my screen.
I get it.
So it turns out, guys, that I feel like I'm 50. Donald Trump, president of the United States, he called himself
these United States.
Of these United States?
These United States.
Not another.
Not a different United States.
Confederation of states somewhere else.
Right.
But this one. You know, actually, so fun fact. Mexico was actually officially known as the United States of Mexico for ever without anyone knowing until they changed it like a decade ago, because they'll be dag blasted if they were going to be compared to the U.S., which no one ever said the United States of Mexico ever.
No.
But they did change it to just Mexico.
Do people refer to us as the United States of America, or do they just refer to us as America?
So it depends. So, I mean, some people don't speak English. Estados Unidos is how we're known to our neighbors south of Virginia.
Yeah, Los Estados Unidos. Yeah, that's true.
Estados Unidos is
Estados Unidos.
The Estados Unidos. And then the various other languages. I think they just call us the states. So like in Canada, they tend to refer to us as the states. Sounds kind of fancy.
Because we are the states.
We are the states, not just some states. We are the states.
I just realized that I've got that stupid filter thing on my video where it touched up my appearance.
Well, we don't want that.
No, when you have perfection, you don't need touching it up.
Because then it just looks like airbrushed.
Right. Yeah, it looks like I got Botox, and I don't need that.
No. And neither does personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds.
No, he look at him. Look at how fantastic.
Look at that smile.
I know. It's a great smile.
Look at this man's smile. So yeah, Donald Trump.
According to Shane Sweeney, that's Donald Messiah Chris Trump to y'all.
Oh, Chris Trump? Yeah, fair enough. Let us bask in the glory that is your rugged splendor, Bass says. By the way, Bass, apologies for last night. YouTube was not showing the comments, and so I assumed that we weren't getting any. Turned out we were getting a few, including some from you. So I apologize. So Donald Trump was I think he was in front of the White House giving talking to reporters about his trade war with China. And during it, he says, no one else was, dragging us into a Smoot-Hawley trade war. And he looked up to the sky and said, I am the chosen one. And there's some disagreement as to whether he was joking or not. But it gets better. Because I'm not sure if it was it before or after that he did the Jew thing?
I didn't even know he actually did that. I saw the tweet. I didn't know he actually did that.
What, the chosen one thing?
Yeah. Oh, no, when he said, he was the chosen one on trade?
Yeah, he looked up and said, I am the chosen one. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, all right. Because of everything that's happened this week, I think the chosen one thing happened first, and then the Jew thing happened.
Yeah, so then later he said he was talking about Jews who vote Democrat. He said 5 years ago, the concept of even talking about this, even 3 years ago, of cutting off aid to Israel because of two people that hate Israel and hate Jewish people. I can't believe we're even having this conversation. Where has the Democratic Party gone? Where have they gone where they're defending these two people over the state of Israel? I think any Jewish people that vote for a Democrat, it shows either a total lack of knowledge or great disloyalty. And so for a while, Trump supporters were saying, no, he wasn't saying that Jews have to be loyal to Israel. He was saying that they were being disloyal to Jews, to which Rudy Giuliani clarified, no, he definitely meant Israel. So for all of the Republic Jews who were pretending to be upset about the assertion that Jews have dual loyalty to the U.S. and to Israel, they've been oddly quiet this week. And I'm not sure why. Matt, why do you think that is?
Well, I would have to defer to the Jewish man.
Well, I don't know. We'll never know, I guess. I guess we'll never know. But thankfully, there was a Jew who had some thoughts on this, no less than former Libertarian VP candidate Wayne Allen Root, who tweeted, President Trump is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world, not just America. He is the best president for Israel in the history of the world, and the Jewish people in Israel love him like he's the king of Israel. Trump retweeted that tweet and quoted Root as saying, they love him like he is the second coming of God.
The second coming of God.
The second coming of God.
That means that at some point, God left.
Well, so that's a reference to, I guess, Messiah, but second coming is something that Christians believe in.
True.
That God, Jesus came and then is coming back. Jews don't actually, Jews are waiting for that first coming.
Right. I knew that the Jewish folk, they were waiting on the first coming because
it's that first time.
Yeah, they're still waiting on number one. They're still waiting on the Messiah to come and visit.
Right.
And the Christians are like, no, it was that carpenter guy. that carpenter guy, he's coming back.
We already had number one. He's coming back. And
Right.
this time, it's
He is
personal.
returning. Yes. It's like Jaws 3. First, God came with the flood. Then Jesus came with his carpenter act.
We're
And
going
then
to
he's
need a
coming
bigger
back.
boat.
But yeah, since he said they love him like he's the second coming of God as opposed to the Messiah or Jesus or anything else, to me that means Wayne Allen Root believes that God left.
Oh, so Wayne Allen Root actually considers himself he has described himself, he's a little bit all over the place, but he has described himself as a Jew who has become an evangelical Christian, but he's also still a Jew.
That makes sense, actually, for Wayne Allen Root.
It does, because he's a libertarian and also a Republican, but also a libertarian, but also a Republican.
And he's a Jew, but a Christian, but a Jew, but an evangelical Christian, but a Jew.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah. You know.
So that we cleared that up. So I just want to talk briefly about, because I am Jewish and an anarchist, and I have MS. I'm a pescatarian. The thing about, it's tough making sure the smile gets above the fold there.
It's very difficult when we're trying to promote
Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law. I gotta
just like do this the whole time, like, hey guys, so I mean, so let's cut.
If I actually sit comfortably, it looks like. Hang on, how did I just had that? No, it's the other one. It's looks like it says Chris Reynolds, Muddied Waters Studios.
It might as well be.
It may as well be.
I'm fine with that, honestly. Chris Reynolds, Muddied Waters Studios.
If you want us to do this with your gear, just donate to us.
This is a fun. Yeah, donate shirts and clothing and I mean, honestly, anything. Toothpaste, shampoo, like, I mean, we'll take your toiletries and your clothing and use them on the show.
No. That's not even a question. I
will absolutely brush my teeth with your branded toothpaste. Speaking
to you, Crest.
Brought to you by Allow me to thank Crest. This is going to be a fun episode for our podcast listeners. By the way, guys, this is definitely one you'll want to check out on YouTube after you listen to the entirety of the podcast. You'll want to check this one out on YouTube because
a lot of visual jokes.
There's a lot of visuals happening here that don't translate well. But yeah, so I like that we're having a serious conversation about cutting aid to Israel and everywhere else too, for that matter. Like Ron Paul, I think this was his quote. Maybe he took this from someone else, but he said, foreign aid is when rich people take money from poor people in this country to give to rich people in another country. And that is what it is. Like they're giving it to people in power in these governments who then use it however the hell they want to. And Israel has a booming economy, they're very developed economically in every sector. There's no reason for them to need, there's no reason for any country to need foreign aid. There's definitely no reason for Israel, a country with a per capita GDP at the higher end of most European countries, to be getting billions of dollars a year.
No. Absolutely.
There's no reason for it. And if Ilhan Omar and the other one, Rashida Tlaib, are anti-Semites, okay, then they're anti-Semites. I refuse to believe that about my Ilhan, though.
Well, I mean, they're not anti-Semites because Semites is the entire area of people.
Well, that's another thing. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I mean, look at how Semitic I am.
Right. Right.
So, but anti-Jewish, whatever. If they're anti-Jew, okay, they're anti-Jew, that doesn't mean that we should continue giving money to foreign countries, to anyone, but especially to very wealthy foreign countries. There's no
True.
reason for it. And so if that makes me because I'm not voting Democrat, but I'm also not voting Republican. Let's distill this for a moment. Donald Trump is telling us, the Jewish people, my people,
Your people.
Chris Reynolds, I don't think he's not Jewish, but he is an attorney. And so our people that I should have put parentheses around Chris Reynolds' face. Anyway, it would have been, I'm not good with scissors.
You did a great job cutting out Chris Reynolds' face, though.
Thank you. I haven't cut out something since probably like 7th grade. I'm very proud of this. This was first try.
That's really amazing.
I even got the chin and everything. I think I did a great job. So thank you for recognizing that, Matt. Trump is telling us that if you don't vote for him, then you are showing disloyalty to a foreign country that was founded largely by Marxists.
Yep.
So vote wisely, friend.
That's right. To Andrew Dicker, you can give us Bitcoin donations if you follow our page on Float, FLOTE.app. If you find Muddied Waters Media on that, it's at Muddied Waters Media on Float.app. You can give us all the Bitcoin donations that you want. And man, I will wear an Andrew Dicker real estate shirt. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And Corey Hayes, I love you too, son. Apparently I have a child now. It's a long story. Don't ask.
I have to see what Corey, you keep talking.
Okay. But yeah, the fact that many Republicans believe that we need to give aid to Israel, and they're like, yeah, it's because that's what Jesus would have wanted. Jesus would have wanted us to give aid to Israel, and in all actuality,
no.
If that's the case, then he probably wouldn't want Israel doing state-funded abortions.
There's probably a few things he wouldn't want Israel doing.
The murdering.
The murder. I can see this guy looking like your son.
Yep.
I can see it. I mean, he's wearing a straw hat, so,
Right, yeah.
helps.
He works out in the sun all day long.
Ah.
He wants to keep a youthful glow about him like his old man.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to.
Right.
You've definitely got to, Matt. But, yeah, so I mean, this is all the same nonsense back and forth about Israel. Jewish people, by the way, here's an interesting thought. Jewish people make up, I think, like 4% of the U.S. population, something like that. I mean, it very, very, like, we are not I see them, why, people try to get working class whites because they make up a huge section of the population, or baby boomers, or even the black vote because or the Hispanic vote because they're a large voting bloc that can sway an election that tends to vote, vote almost like as a group with some outliers. Jews, there's a few million of us here. We vote about 60-40 between or 2-1 to 3-1 Democrat to Republican if we vote. We tend to make our own choices as to why we're voting. I think it has more to do with signaling to people, evangelical Christians and people who like Jews more so than actual Jews themselves. Because even if you go, oh, well, Jews have money, so do Indian Americans. And there's almost as many, meaning from India, and there's almost as many Indian Americans here as Jewish Americans, and we never hear about them.
Well, the reason that we don't never hear about Indian Americans as we do as Jewish Americans is because there wasn't a very long book written about the plight that so many people take to as gospel.
There was. It's just Christians don't believe that book. They don't believe the Bhagavad Gita. So
that's a valid point.
They
valid.
actually do. They have their own book too and everything. It's actually a pretty close comparison. The only difference is that there's like 1 billion of them in their home country, and we got like 7 million. But I think it really has more to do with signaling to evangelical Christians we support Israel. Because when I tell an evangelical Christian that I'm Jewish, I'm told one of two things usually. Oh, wow, my Savior is a Jew. Or, I love Israel. To which I say, oh, really?
Have you ever been?
I've never been. And they just kind of look at me. And I start talking about whatever I was talking about before they said that. Because I get it. Jews are supposed to have a tie to our homeland.
Right.
Not just because most people have a tie to their homeland, but religiously, our religion is built around that we were given this piece of property and told how to live, and then we kept not doing that and getting kicked out of it. And so, we're, getting beat up there and being punished for it. And then we get exiled. And now we finally get to go back after a millennia of being abused around the world. Okay. Israel in its current iteration is a neo-Marxist turned neoliberal state. It is entirely secular. They have added Judaica to their badges and crests and symbols and so forth to try to drive home the Judaism part. But there's no reference to God in any of the founding documents. There is a vague reference to the Rock of Israel that was added by a rabbi who essentially misled all of the Marxists and told them, oh yeah, this means the Jewish indomitable spirit, because none of them had read the Tanakh and didn't know the Rock of Israel means God. This isn't a religious Jewish state. This is not the events that are going to lead to the coming of Messiah. Like, it's a secular state that was carved out by Gentiles for Jews because of bad stuff that had happened. And it was carved out of, in many cases, the private property of people that had lived there for quite a while. And now they're mad about it. I'm simplifying it slightly, but this is not... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's simplified a little bit. But,
slightly. Yeah.
That's like the Cliff's Notes of that entire battle. But
that's the TLDR of like 2,000 years of history. No, more than that, 4,000 or 5,000 years of history. The point is that, in my mind anyway, and most Jews would disagree with me, most religious Jews would disagree with me, I feel no need as a Jew to feel any particular tie to this secular neoliberal state, which is essentially a protectorate territory of the U.S. I don't. So, if that makes me disloyal to Israel, then I guess I'm also disloyal to Cambodia, Jordan, Russia, whatever. Like, there are many foreign states I'm not loyal to.
Yeah, pretty much all of them.
I'm not particularly loyal to this one. Hour 59.
You said foreign state, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not. So I mean, so that's what that is. Speaking of, go ahead.
I had a segue that I was like, I can't even say that.
Speaking of Jews and predicaments, the Epstein autopsy came back, guys, and we can all rest easy. It was definitely suicide. In no way was this murder. It was totally suicide. Doesn't matter that there were inconsistency. Like a lot of them. That doesn't matter.
Right. That's right. The ME said it was suicide.
That's the final word.
Yeah. Nobody should spread any other news about it other than the fact that it was suicide.
It's literally just suicide.
Only suicide.
He was in suicide watch, and then they decided to take him out of it and put him in a cell. Go ahead.
Yeah, just took him off of suicide watch. Yeah. He tried to kill himself 2 weeks ago, allegedly. He tried to kill himself 2 weeks ago. Let's just
put him back.
He's good.
He's the highest value asset that we have, that the federal government has, in terms of like suspects of something, and in terms of just the amount of information he had on very high profile people around the world. Let's put him back to not. He's definitely not going to kill himself now. It's been 2 weeks.
And he is a man of finer taste, minus, his predilection for children. But finer taste, he gets the nicest things. Let's not give him the paper sheets we give people when they're in this high max security prison. Let's give him the full-fledged sheets, the ones that don't rip at the body weight of a full-grown male.
Which is what you would give people in prison.
Right.
Let's give him some real high-quality paper.
Give him something that won't rip it, the weight of 250 pounds or whatever he is.
So let's completely ignore, because it is suicide, let's completely ignore the fact that he had bones broken in his neck that tend to only break during being strangled by someone.
That's right. Let's
definitely
matter.
Ignore that.
Definitely ignore the fact that when he was speaking with his lawyers and with other visitors only the day before, they all said he was in high spirits and was looking forward to the trial. That doesn't matter.
That does not matter.
The ME said it was suicide.
What is an ME?
Medical examiner.
Oh, and the medical examiner, by the way, was Michael Baden. Baden?
It's one of those two. I'm not 100% sure. That's why I didn't put his name.
One of those. Speaking of another Jew in a predicament, Michael Baden, who also was the chief medical examiner, autopsy person for JFK.
And Martin Luther King Jr.
And really?
Yeah. There was somebody else in there too. I can't remember who the other one is, but he was JFK, Martin Luther King Jr., somebody else, and Epstein. And I was like, that is quite the list that man has.
Wife. I mean,
he's like the Gloria Allred of medical examiners.
Another Jew. I mean,
I'm not should be voting Republican.
Michael Baden, guys. Let me tell you something. If Michael Baden doesn't vote for Trump this year, he is showing a real disloyalty to Israel. Definitely gotta think about that, Dr. Baden. Let's forget the fact. Let's ignore it because Mr. Baden said so. Let's ignore the fact that Mr. Epstein signed his will the day before killing himself.
That's right. Yep. Forget that. Forget that he also has a diary of all the people who went with him on these little pedo ventures.
Definitely ignore that. I think
I coined pedo ventures in that, by the way.
I hope you did.
I hope I did, because I was really proud of pedo ventures.
I'm ready to start filing copyright claims on other people. So let's definitely let's say that clearly so they can pick it up. Pedo ventures.
Old pedo ventures.
Pedo ventures. This is first use. First use pedo ventures. Copyright 2019 Muddied Waters Media. Now, the good news here, of course, is that Prince Andrew of the UK has said he is appalled at what the news has reported about Epstein.
Yep. The exact quote that he said was, well, that the palace put out, because Prince Andrew not talking to the media about this.
Yeah.
But the palace came out and said, His Royal Highness deplores the exploitation of any human being and the suggestion he would condone, participate in, or encourage any such behavior is abhorrent, which is the most British way to put that.
That's the most British way to say, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
There's a British version of this Shaggy song, It Wasn't Me, and it goes, His Royal Highness deplores... I'm not going to try to sing. Now, Prince Andrew can't really explain who the girl is in the video where Epstein and an unidentified young girl are leaving Epstein's house and Prince Andrew is, I guess, he's at the door.
He's in the doorway. He this video is so stupid. He's in the door, like he's standing at the front door of the house that's across the street from Bill Cosby, and Epstein is outside with this young lady, girl, I don't know,
child, teeny
she
bobber.
She was a teenager. She was definitely a teenager. Of what age I can't really say, because she wasn't identified. But he's in the doorway. Epstein's like, "Hey man, yeah, I'll see you later." And he's just like, and he waves to both of them, and the girl turns around and waves back and says something. You can't hear anything, and then he like
help!
Looks
I'm
around
about to be raped.
Right. He looks around all creepily and then shuts the door. Like, I hope nobody saw me doing this. And can't say who that is. Can't tell. Well, I don't remember this. Well, you're in the video. You're waving goodbye to her. Don't remember this at all.
He's got a lot going on.
I don't know if you know or not. I'm the prince. Like, there's stuff that I do, and everybody's like, no, I didn't know your name until this. There's Charles and there's you, and you have sex with teenagers, apparently.
I literally had to look up who Prince Andrew was. I assumed it was the UK, but I know they have like Monaco and stuff like that they still have royalty. So I looked it up. I'm like, oh, okay. My only association with you is pedophilia now for the rest of my life.
Like Kristen Gillibrand. Only association I'm ever going to have with Kristen Gillibrand is that her dad was the lawyer for a sex cult.
Followers at home. Yeah. If whenever you think of Kristen Gillibrand, you don't even have to know who that is. But when you think of her, when you think of that name, think of the fact that her father helped protect a pedophilia cult.
The NXIVM?
The NXIVM cult? It's spelled funny.
NXIVM. NXIVM. Yeah. The NXIVM pedophilia sex cult. He was their lawyer and potentially helped groom people.
Kristen Gillibrand. So the good news, guys, is that Prince Andrew says he definitely did not have sex with Virginia Giuffre. Three times.
Definitely didn't happen. 3 times when she was under the age of 18. Definitely did not have sex with her. 3 times.
3 times. Did not do that.
I believe it was the court records that became unsealed the day before he killed himself miraculously in the most well-timed suicide of all time. I believe that it was her testimony calling out Prince Andrew.
But he didn't do that 3 times.
But he didn't do that. That's a witch hunt. That's a limey hunt.
He didn't do that even the 3rd time.
No.
So that's good news. I'm glad that we can put that particular
chapter
story behind us.
Of American pedophilia behind us.
Of Anglospheric pedophilia.
Also.
Across the English-speaking world, pedophilia.
The cross-Atlantic.
The transatlantic pedophilia cult of billionaires, which sounds creepily similar to something Alex Jones was telling us for like 10 years. It's a good thing he's off the internet.
He was on Crowder the other day.
Was he really?
Talking about Epstein.
Well, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
That is appropriate. Let's see what our fans... Andrew Dicker says Epstein may have killed himself, most likely not. The bone evaluation could go either way, but the roads all lead to Georgia. There are too many coincidences, as we know, but who do you think is capable of this level of attention, and who else stands to lose from this trial? Mysterious billionaire, yada yada, things we know, but what steps are realistic to bring these things to light from the public, from the masses? Andrew, I got to tell you, first of all, I don't know who Georgia is, but second...
I was like, is he talking about the state, the country, or somebody in particular?
I don't know. That's probably like a phrase, and I'm just not worldly enough to know it.
He's Irish, so.
Oh, well, yeah, there you go. Georgia. So, Irish.
But yeah, what can be done? Nothing.
Nothing.
This is actually my second show of the day. I pre-recorded a show for later in this week today, and we talked about this very briefly. And I would say, it's from a song. Thank you, Andrew. And we were talking about the Epstein thing. I totally got derailed when he said it was from a song. We were talking about Epstein.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
He committed suicide.
He committed suicide. There's nothing we can do about it. More people are. Oh, that's what it was. I saw a meme that I'm going to take as just being truth, because I don't know if there was an actual study done on this, but I take it as truth that 22% of all Americans believe the Epstein autopsy is legit, and 26% of all Americans think that gas station sushi won't hurt them.
Really?
I don't know if it's real or not. Like, somebody could have just made that, but I take it as 100% truth that more people believe in gas station sushi being okay than the Epstein autopsy being legit.
If it's from Sheetz or Wawa, I'd probably trust it. Actually, no, not sushi.
Not sushi.
Yeah, not sushi.
I have trouble with like regular grocery store sushi. But I'm definitely not getting it from a gas station, even if it's Sheetz or Wawa.
Well, guys, if you're in Florida and you get hurt by some gas station sushi, you definitely want to contact personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law. This guy right here.
Right here.
This guy right here. He will make sure. He will make sure everything is okay. Bass says 40% of all billionaires in the USA are Jewish, despite making up only 2% of the population. I don't know. Sure, that could be true.
That could be true.
That could be true. So pandering to Jews in the political sphere, it's the money and it's the evangelicals. Like that, those two, and boomers in general. Boomers in general are like, they were raised on the whole.
Evangelicals and the boomers than it is the money.
I mean, ultimately, you need their votes, right? And boomers.
Because you're right. More Jewish people tend to vote Democrat than they vote Republican. So it's not that they're going for the money. They're going for the evangelicals and the boomers.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, most Jews are not politically like me, but in terms of their connection to Israel, especially more secular, non-religious, especially liberal Jews, they don't really, I mean, are there liberal Jews that are all about Israel? Yeah. Are there a lot that, especially my age and younger, that don't particularly care? Yeah. I mean, it's true. It's a play to evangelicals and boomers. Boomers are like warriors for Israel and Jews. Understandably so. They were raised on, seeing what happened with the Holocaust and the struggles and everything that happened as a result of that. That's not a reason to support a foreign, I won't call it an ethno-state, just because they have such a large minority of people who are not Jewish, but they definitely are. They're not an ethno-state. They're a Jewish-flavored, secular, neoliberal state. And they add little bits of Judaica to kind of make it look Jewy. But I mean, they're like any other proto-European country. They are what they are. Oh, it's Ray Charles. All roads lead to Georgia. That old chestnut.
It's got to be Georgia on my mind.
Oh, well, he might have also written all sorts of Georgia theme songs because he's from there.
I don't think so. He was banned from Georgia.
Isn't he from Georgia?
I don't know. I haven't seen Ray in a long time, but he got banned from Georgia because he refused to play a show there once because of
segregation.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was segregation. Yeah, it was because of segregation. He refused to play a show until they desegregated their schools, and Georgia said, "You will never play here again." And he was banned from Georgia until like the 80s, when they finally reversed it. And they're like, "Yeah, this is kind of dumb that he's still not allowed to play."
And then they also they have like a Ray Charles Day.
Yeah,
which is that's a reversal. Speaking of reversals, there's some Republicans out there that want you to know that they are not happy about guns. now suddenly that they've already been elected.
Actually, Pete King, who we're about to talk about, this isn't really a reversal for Pete King. Pete King's got a long history of being anti Second Amendment for his people, the people who vote him in, because he has, not that, well, I'm going to get to that later, but not that this will come as a shock, or not that the NRA is anything to write home about for being pro Second Amendment, but he gets an F from them. So that shows you exactly where he stands on the Second Amendment.
Yeah, if you get an F rating from the NRA, you really don't like guns.
I believe Bernie Sanders has a D.
So Bernie Sanders, oddly enough, he's from Brooklyn, but he represents Vermont. Up until recently, Vermont was one of the most pro-gun states in the union. And he came from that, you got to toe the pro-gun line if you want to keep getting votes from Vermonters. That has changed over time, as it's basically all the other New Yorkers have also moved to Vermont to join Bernie. But I have a lot of family in Vermont, so I have watched things change there a lot. It's New York in the woods now, up in the mountains, whereas it was not before. But yeah, so he introduces a bill that makes it a crime to Pete King makes it a crime to.
No, he did not. Sorry, I should have put in more notes. He did not introduce the bill. He signed on to the bill.
Okay, so he was the first Republican to sign on to the assault weapons ban,
Right.
which makes it a crime to knowingly import, sell, transfer, or possess a semi-automatic assault weapon or large capacity ammunition feeding device, which I think is probably anything over like 10 rounds. Usually they call high capacity,
Right.
even though that's standard capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When asked about it, Petey King said, "They are weapons of mass slaughter. I don't see any need for them in everyday society. I think the assault weapons ban is timely now, especially in the view of the shootings in El Paso and Dayton."
Yep. And of course, he's been joined not on assault weapons bans, but he's been joined on the gun control front by many other Republicans like Dan Crenshaw, Rand Paul, and Ted Cruz, who are pushing for red flag laws, which are arguably worse than actual gun bans. So a gun ban is the government says, you can't buy this gun anymore. Usually it says if you've got the gun, oh well, you got the gun. Not always, but usually it does. And if you can't have the gun, it's usually like, so please turn it in. But they're not really actively looking for people that already own these. My best guess is that any assault weapon ban, if it were passed, would grandfather in existing ones, at least for now. A red flag law is essentially any person who dislikes you can call the police and say that you're acting as a threat to others. The police will secretly go to a judge without you having a chance to defend yourself or even know what's happening and get a red flag warrant, which is about the easiest thing on earth to get. Then they come to your house, usually early in the morning, and either knock on the door or, in some states, break into your house and tell you to give up all of your weapons. Not just your assault weapons, if you got a revolver, you got a flintlock pistol that you got, that's a historical item, got any big knives, they're going to take those from you, brass knuckles, tasers, they want it all. And if you react the way most people would react to someone bursting into their house at 5 a.m, not really knowing who it is, they'll kill you with their large capacity semi-automatic assault rifles. That's what a red flag law is. So when a Republican says, well, I'm not in favor of banning guns, I just think the police should murder you for having them.
That was the story. God, when did I post that? I kind of wish that nope, not that one. I don't even remember who I stole that from, because that would make it a lot easier. You keep talking. I'm going to find it.
While Matt's looking for that, guys, if the police ever do burst into your house and murder one of your loved ones, I'm certain that personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, if you're in Florida anyway, can help you.
I don't know about that.
He can at least refer you to someone.
He can at least refer you to somebody. he could definitely refer you to somebody. I'm not sure if that is
His forte.
his forte. Which I also found out that's not how you pronounce that. There it is. Eric Brakey from Maine, running for Congress.
Yeah.
He wrote a great post the other day in a knock, knock. It's 5 a.m. and you are awakened by a loud knock on your door. Felt like that was unnecessary with the knock at the beginning, Eric, but I still love you anyway. You're a great guy. You grab your firearm and see what's going on. Government agents are there with a red flag order to seize your firearms, but you've done nothing wrong. You haven't broken any laws, so how could this be? And you think for a moment, why should I comply with this clearly unconstitutional demand? Still groggy and confused, you are shocked as they try to force their way into your home, so you resist and you are shot dead in your doorway. Your name is Gary Willis. You live in Glen Burnie, Maryland, or anywhere else that has red flag laws. That's not how that ended, but that is what happens.
Yeah.
That is what is going to happen to literal thousands of people who have never broken the law, but because somebody said they need to turn in their weapons, that is going to happen. Cops are going to die. People are going to die. I did not mean to have that come off the way that came off, but
human beings, cops are going to die. Human beings are going to die. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
not the way that I meant to do it. Cops are going to die. Regular citizens are going to die. Regular citizens are going to die. And people everywhere are going to defend these red flag laws because they feel as though this is what we need to do in order to protect things. You are turning, for all of you Republicans supporting this, you are turning your back on every veteran that you sent off to a war that we should not have been involved in.
Yep, absolutely.
All of them are coming back with some sort of PTSD or some sort of mental disorder that now make it incapable for them to carry and protect their Second Amendment rights. The rights that they allegedly fought for over in the sand against brown people that apparently kept our freedoms from us.
Well, apparently the Taliban still has that particular freedom, guys, because we're still getting killed over here for, having people dislike us and possibly owning weapons, which I don't. And I'll never go on a boat again, I'll tell you that much.
And so, top fan Sarah Anderegg says, what happens when a police officer gets red flagged? Will they get taken off the job on top of their weapons being taken? And to Sarah Anderegg, I say, probably not.
Probably not. I mean, we do know multiple studies. Chris Reynolds just tuned in, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I texted him.
Oh, good. Because I messaged him too. Because this is the Chris. So, Chris, you just tuned in. This is the Chris Reynolds Attorney at Law episode of the Muddied Waters of Freedom.
That's right. Chris Reynolds Attorney at Law official T-shirt, and the Chris Reynolds this side. The Chris Reynolds Attorney at Law
semi-official T-shirt.
Semi-official should be official.
This
t-shirt.
Should be an official T-shirt. Chris, if you sold a shirt like this, I'd buy one for every member of my family.
If you give us permission, we will sell them on the Muddied Waters of Freedom store on Amazon.
If we will absolutely. This will be if Chris Reynolds allows, this will be a hot item. We will share the profits of it with the Chris Reynolds Attorney at Law.
Not even a question.
I'll be the first person to buy one. In a schmedium. In a schmedium. So yeah, no, I don't know. I've seen the memes that are like, yeah, we should start reporting politicians and cops. Cops have a 40% domestic abuse rate. And they're still cops. So I don't think that's gonna I don't think it's gonna work. I think we sometimes get caught up, and we see this a lot, where we get so caught up in thinking, well, the law says this, so we're going to use the law to our advantage. And if you can do that, I mean, there are many defense attorneys that, work hard to do that. But the reality is politicians and police often ignore the law because who's going to stop them?
And they stand up for one another and protect them from the law.
Yeah. Yeah. The thin blue line is actually a barricade where they circle the wagons around their own when one of them is accused of wrongdoing. We've seen the videos. A cop is clearly assaulting a human being, and another cop comes up and is a good cop, but they just kind of stop that other cop from doing it. Well, that's not what they're supposed to do, because if they saw me assaulting someone, they'd arrest me.
Right.
But they're not going to do that to their friend and their buddy. So
Chris Reynolds just commented, he said, Spike, cops beat their spouses. No, actually, that comes from a survey from cops.
yeah, no, I'm just quoting the survey. That was actually a commissioned study.
That was a commission study where they asked 340 different police officers if they've ever beaten their wives, and it was between severe, it was minor and severe. And the minor was anything with a closed fist, slapping, kicking, where severe was beating them, which I'm not really sure where the differentiation was between those two.
Right.
But the severe was beating them, choking them, throwing them, and something else. I don't remember what the other one was.
Stabbing them? Like, I mean, my God.
Oh, yeah, it may have been something like that. Threatening with a gun. Something along those lines.
It's what they do for a living. So yeah, it was I think just over 40% that did that, and that was self-reported.
Yep. That
so
was
what about the ones who
anonymous answers?
Yeah. What about the ones who said no, but they did?
Right. The ones that lied.
The ones that lied. So that 40 is the floor, basically.
Right.
So yeah, no, I don't see that working. So yeah, so that's what's been going on with our friends in the Republican Party. So I want to talk about I have a lot of respect for Eric Brakey. I want to talk about the unconstitutional thing because of course.
Yeah, anarchist, we get it.
Right. It's my shtick. Like, this is my thing. I talked about this on my show last night with TJ Roberts, which, by the way, it's a freaking fantastic episode. Just a side note there. But so I talked with TJ, and we talked about the fact that let's say something's unconstitutional. Okay, something is unconstitutional. Red flag laws are against the Constitution. The police will still kill you over it.
Mm-hmm.
Or take your weapons over it and make you comply. It'll still be on your record. You'll still have to go to court and fight to get your weapons back. You'll still be presumed guilty, which is a violation of, we talked about red flag laws are a violation not just of the Second Amendment, but of the Fourth Amendment, of whichever amendment is the right to a speedy trial, because you know there's going to be a backlog on red flag cases. At least 5 or 6 amendments, as clearly written, are being violated. And you could argue that the First Amendment's being violated too, because you're often having this happen because you said something to someone that they didn't like. But even if you don't want to say that one, at least 5 or 6 other ones are being violated. That's like at least half of the Bill of Rights, quote unquote, that is being violated. Okay, now what? Unless you can get enough political will to get politicians to repeal these laws or to not pass them in the first place, it doesn't matter what the sheet of paper says. So Lysander Spooner once said, and I'm paraphrasing here, whether the Constitution was designed to create the overbearing and ever increasingly infringing government that we have, or whether it's powerless to stop it, it kind of makes it unfit to exist, or at least for us to lean on and say, well, this is unconstitutional. Okay, great. That's like a cop speeding by you, and you pull up next to him, and you go, hey, you're speeding, and that's against the law. And then they pull you over for going the same speed as them. That is the equivalent of telling the police that something is unconstitutional. They do not care.
Years ago, I got pulled over for not using my blinker.
Okay.
I'm certain that's not why he pulled me over. I'm certain he thought that I had drugs in the car.
Right.
And so he pulled me over and he was like, you didn't use your blinker back there. And I don't know about you, but I have to use my blinker because it's the law. And I said, "Oh, I thought I did. I know I didn't, but whatever." And like the next day, I saw a cop make a left-hand turn, no blinker, and I wanted to chase him down. And my friend in the car convinced me not to because we had drugs in the car.
Yeah.
So,
Right. This is just a bad idea. Just
Yeah.
don't do that.
I didn't have drugs in the car the first time. I did the second time.
Yeah.
Chris Reynolds asked, do libertarians even care about the Constitution? To Chris Reynolds, yes, libertarians care about the Constitution. Most of them believe in the Constitution. They think that the Constitution should be the only, especially the Bill of Rights, should be the only 10 laws there are, and that the laws should dictate how the government acts and not put any restrictions on the people.
Right. Yeah. So there are different types of libertarians. You've got your minarchists and your anarchists, basically. And the minarchists believe that a minimal government is needed to protect everyone's property rights and to protect their property. And that's about it. Not even to really try to do much else. And that is necessary. Anarchists believe that any existence of government requires infringing on people's property rights through taxation, through laws and things like that, and that therefore it's unable to protect our rights if its existence is a violation in the first place. So and then there's an even more fun group of minarchists who don't like the Constitution. They like the Articles of Confederation that the Constitution replaced, which they say was an actual attempt at limiting government. My argument to that is, and look what happened to it. They got rid of it the first time they felt like it because it's a sheet of paper.
Yeah,
John Liberty said, "I'll buy a shirt that says cops have a 40% domestic abuse rate and they're cops with Spike's face." That's probably going to be they'll probably be on there soon.
I'll make it tonight. Chris Reynolds says if you wear a bootleg Chris Reynolds law shirt, you definitely won't get pulled over.
I hope that's true.
You might get pulled over, but you got a better chance of getting off.
Officer, what could possibly be the problem?
I have a Chris Reynolds attorney at law shirt on.
Drugs? Of course not. I would never do drugs.
I'm wearing Chris Reynolds law
while
shirt.
Sporting a beautiful Chris Reynolds shirt that I made. I don't do drugs. I get high on my hobbies, like making Chris Reynolds shirts.
That's right.
So,
real quick, before you do what you're about to do, I am looking at our stream on Float. And I know, so actually, I'm not going to even spoil that. I'm not even going to spoil what happens in my show with Aaron Nakamoto that's going to be coming out later this week. But I talked to her about the archiving thing.
Oh, good.
But, our stream on Float looks really good. It looks really good. Like,
what is it? It's float.app/muddywatersmedia/live.
Yes.
Oh, wow, that does look good.
It looks really good. I'm not even going to say it looks really good. So if
wait. Okay.
If you're out there and you aren't on the Float, FLOTE, if you're not on there, go to float, FLOTE.app, sign up, and follow Muddied Waters Media. And you can watch us live there for all of our shows.
That looks so good.
It does. That's better than Facebook.
That's better than YouTube.
That's better than YouTube.
Holy hell. Everyone join Float now so we can stop using these other garbage social media applications.
Well, give us some time until, we can embed. But yeah, no, join Float, follow us, because they have put together a great platform. It's still in beta, so they're still working on some things, but it looks good.
So good. Matt Sheehan says, "No victim, no crime." You're damn right. I didn't mean to punch Chris in the face. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you just punched Chris right in the face.
Chris, I'm so sorry. I did not mean that. You're darn right, Matt Sheehan. Sorry.
Sorry, Chris Reynolds.
Sorry, Chris Reynolds. I'm sorry.
Personal injury attorney.
I would
Chris
never.
Reynolds.
I would never intentionally hurt Chris Reynolds. I would apparently accidentally do so, though.
Well, yeah.
So I'm sorry. So, guys, are you thinking of making a podcast? Well, I hope
know
you
I
are. Because Anchor, if you are, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Isn't that right, Matt?
That's true. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free.
For free?
For free. Which you can use right from your phone and or computer.
Well, I hope that they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great.
They do. They absolutely do. Not only that, but they will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. This includes everywhere. This includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and many, many more.
That is insane. Now, I know that you can easily make money from your podcast with Anchor, but what's the minimum listenership?
This is going to be really hard to believe, but there is no minimum listenership.
No minimum listenership?
No minimum listenership.
Well, great day in the morning.
Great day in the morning. So all you have to do is, if you want to start a podcast, is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. And if you do that, let us know, send us a message in one of our many inboxes that you can send us a message, preferably on the anchor.fm app. And you can possibly, one, get on the show. And two, if you start a podcast, we will subscribe, sub for sub.
Sub for sub.
Sub for sub.
Sub for sub, baby. Check out that Backpage section.
Right.
Is Backpage still a thing? Does that they shut that down?
Backpage
Right?
got shut down.
Oh, check that out on Pirate Bay.
I tried to sign somebody up on Backpage, and I was going to put an ad out with their phone number. That's probably why they got shut down.
That's probably why.
Because
That's probably why. There's a good chance. Now, guys, one of the cool features on Anchor is that you can, you can give us money by going to anchor.fm/muddied waters, but you can also leave us these really nifty voice messages, and we've got a few nifty voice messages today from none other than personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, pictured here. So
this is the professional personal injury attorney
Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
This is his show today.
Every show is all about Chris. This is the muddied Chris Reynolds of Chris Reynolds.
Right. Chris Reynolds presents the Muddied Waters of Freedom.
Personal injury waters of Chris Reynolds freedom.
Yes.
Attorney at law.
Attorney at law.
So here's the first message.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with the AOC Millennial Minute, backed by popular demand. So one of the more interesting stories recently that I've seen is where Jay-Z has partnered with the NFL to essentially discuss and help with cultural issues regarding race. And many people are super pissed off about this, calling Jay-Z a sellout, Uncle Tom, you name it, all that kind of stuff. And this has been one of the more interesting things over the last few years that I found, where we have the private sector and the public sector kind of coming together and trying to figure out a way to work, and it never seems to go away. So I'd love the guys' thoughts on Kaepernick, this move by Jay-Z, and any other thoughts on this issue. Thanks. Bye.
Do you have anything before I have some?
Okay,
things.
so God, so many people are going to get mad at me about this one. All right, so if you don't stand for the special song, the Magical Sky Cloth will get mad. That's just a known fact.
That flag died for your freedom.
That's right. That flag, which the flag died for the freedom. And, when you don't stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance that was written by a socialist in order to get kids more used to being to pledge their allegiance to their country as opposed to anything else. But anyway, so let's talk about Kaepernick.
Right.
Does Kaepernick have the right to kneel at the special song? Yes, Kaepernick has the right to do it. But when you're employed by the San Francisco 49ers or anybody else, and they tell you to stand, they are your employers. So if they say stand, you stand up or you lose your job. Do I think he has a right to do it? Absolutely. Do his employers have the right to say, you have to stand for that portion? Yes, they do. And if they say, if you don't keep standing, we're going to fire you. Yeah. What are you?
We have a situation here.
Okay.
We have a bit of a situation that's happened. My wife was trying to be quiet, and it just became so much louder. And then the dog came in, and it's just there's a whole thing happening here. Yes,
Gotcha.
if you don't stand for the sky cloth, and your employer tells you to, you can be fired. I don't remember all the details with it. I think there were some allegations that wasn't actually required, and I know we got a settlement with the NFL, but I don't remember all of that.
So luckily you got me for sports, but I'm going to ask you about Jay-Z in a minute because I'm not even 100% sure who that is.
Okay.
So I'm kidding. I've seen him in concert 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So he didn't stand for the special song, and then Sky Cloth got mad.
Right.
And so Sky Cloth got all mad, and then President Trump was like, the NFL ratings are down, and it's because people like Kaepernick, and the NFL is not making them. And the NFL was like, well, maybe Trump's right, so we're going to make them stand for the special song so Sky Cloth doesn't get mad anymore. And so they made them do that. And they said, no, you have to do it. Now, Kaepernick was not a good quarterback. He was not a good quarterback whatsoever.
Right.
He was a mediocre at best quarterback. And I don't know what you're doing, but it's so distracting.
I want these strawberries. I'll be right back. You keep talking.
Okay. Just you're looking out of the corner of your eye and like reaching. I'm like, what are you doing?
I'll be right back. Something very important came up.
Yeah, you get your strawberries. He was a mediocre quarterback. The first year, nobody knew how to stop him. He would just run around and eventually something would happen. Then the 49ers got rid of Alex Smith. Once they got rid of Alex Smith, they said, Kaepernick is our guy. He's about to be a star. That's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen. I like how you act like you know that or heard that. He's the star. He's going to be our guy. And so they got rid of Alex Smith. Alex Smith went over to Kansas City. Kaepernick was the main guy over in San Francisco. In 2 years, he proved that he could not pass a football well enough to be the starter because he can't just keep running around. They kept giving him passing plays. So he kept trying to throw it, and he kept throwing interceptions. He kept throwing incompletions. He kept throwing pass balls. He kept like everything that you don't want your quarterback to do. And he would just eventually start running. And hopefully something would break out, but they had figured him out by that point. He is not a good quarterback. Then after that, after he got cut from the 49ers, he was offered 3 backup quarterback positions, one in Seattle, one in Denver, and I think one in Baltimore. I don't remember where the third one is though. And he turned them all down because he said, no, I should be a starter. I should be a starter. It's not that he was blackballed from the league. It was that he felt he needed to be a starter, and he wasn't taking it any other way. So he turned down the 3.
Didn't he want like an absurd amount of money?
Probably.
Yeah.
And everybody had to take it on the same thing that Kaepernick, when he was the starter in San Francisco, he was pretty much quiet. Nobody really heard from him. He became the backup, and then he started doing the kneeling thing, and he sucked all of the media attention to him. Right. Nobody cared about Garoppolo. I think that's who the quarterback was at the time. I'm not 100% sure. No, it wasn't Garoppolo. Garoppolo came in later. It was somebody that was awful. It was somebody that was almost as bad as Kaepernick. But he sucked all of the media attention to him. So everybody knew if you're bringing him in as a backup, you were going to be sucking all the media attention to him, even third string, second string, whatever. All of the media attention is going to go to Kaepernick and go away from the people you want the media attention going to, the people that are actually playing in the games. And he kept going, I'm being blackballed by the league because nobody wants me as a starter, because he wasn't good enough to be a starter. And then he sued the league for people for being blackballed with a couple other people who knelt, two of which are playing now, two of which got contracts and are playing again, and he isn't. And it's not because he should be a starter and he's being blackballed. It's because he's not good enough to be a starter, and he refused 3 backup positions, and everybody knew that he would be a media nightmare.
And instead of just being let go a year or so later because he wasn't a great quarterback anymore, instead he's got this sweet Nike deal and a huge settlement from the NFL. And he's seen as a hero.
If he really just cared about the game, he would have taken the backup position and been like, okay, maybe I'll be a starter again one day. But he was like, no. Or he could have gone and played in the Canadian Football League, or he could have gone to play in the Arena Football League, where people who love the game go to play if they can't make it in the NFL or the new XFL or whatever it's called. That I don't know what that new thing's called. The new football league.
Oh, the Vince McMahon thing. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, the Jay-Z thing is that Jay-Z has partnered with the NFL to supposedly to help them with social justice issues. Because I know if I want to work on social justice issues, I'm going to do it with Jay-Z. Really what happened here is that Jay-Z wanted to be one of the team owners, become a part owner of a football team. And the only way he could do that and not look like he was selling out was by doing this social justice-y thing too. Listen, no one had a problem with Jay-Z when he was rapping about victimizing black people for the better part of 20 years. Gosh, no. More than that, 30 years almost. No, 20 years. Yeah. Better part of 20 years. At least more over 20 years, he was rapping about black women were bitches, black men were the N-word. I'm going to kill anyone that gets in my way. I'm going to, do this, I'm going to do that. Basically just rapping a lot about harming other black people. He started shifting where now he couples talking about harming black people with talking about growing black wealth. And he did a song called The Story of OJ, and in part of that song, it was like 1 or 2 lines, he talked about the fact that essentially that Jewish people came to New York penniless and now own large parts of it because they built up their wealth and focused on in-group preference and built something from it. And he basically said, let's do that too. And all of a sudden here came all the groups to say, oh, no, you shouldn't say that. That's an anti-Semitic trope that Jews own things. That's apparently a trope, not a factual statement. And so he got a lot of flack. Again, were they mad when he was saying, I'm going to kill this N and F this bitch? And what? No, they were mad when he said, let's replicate what Jews are doing and build something for ourselves. Now, here he is again saying, I'm going to go join part of the NFL and essentially change it from the inside. We're told that, you got to change things from the inside. He got in trouble because he said something along the lines of the days of kneeling are over. And what he was saying is, instead of kneeling before the things that threaten us, let's stand on top of it and start owning these things so that now we're the people that own these things and we're not being victimized. And instead of just being subject to what's happening, let's actually own it so that we're helping direct what is happening. Well, that wasn't good enough because for the professional grievance industry, their whole shtick is we have to express extreme discontent, appeal to good white people to do something about it, and then step 1, repeat. That's their shtick, is let's say things are bad and let's go tell white people that they need to change it. And he's saying, no, let's build our own and not be subject to the whims of white people or whomever else. Well, that's unacceptable. So that's what that's about in a nutshell.
Just so everybody knows, personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, has never rapped about the N-word or called women the B-word in his raps.
Ever. No. Chris Reynolds, attorney at law. Personal injury.
He's like the Will Smith
He's the
of white attorney rappers.
Yes. Better than anything I could have said. So here is our next message
Glad I could come
from.
up with that.
What's that?
Glad I could come up with that.
Yeah, no, thank you. The Will Smith.
Actually, thank you to our opening music that we are allowed to use without copyright claim. He is the Zuby of white attorney rappers.
I see that, yeah.
I don't think Zuby curses in his raps.
I hope not.
He talks about Jordan Peterson.
If he does, then we go back to the Will Smith thing.
Yeah, and then it's back to Will Smith.
It's back to Will Smith. So here's the next question from Chris.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with Tilapia Time. So obviously you guys are libertarians or anarchists, but I would love to hear what you all would consider to be the least objectionable laws or areas of laws, probably is a better way to put it. So for example, if you were in some weird universe put in charge of creating a government and your choices were an extremely socialist government with tons of regulations and tons of laws, or B, you had to create a government with, say, 5 areas of laws that you would regulate, what would those 5 areas that would be least objectionable to you be? Thanks. Bye.
I like this question. I'll let you go first.
That is a good question. I would say that there needs to be laws that have to do with victim. Like there's a victim. So
Right.
No murdering, no raping, no murdering, no raping, no theft, no selling of people. So laws where people's personal properties and their personal bodies are being treaded upon would be a big one. Pretty much every law that I can think of that I would support stems from that ideal, though.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty much what I would say too. I mean, Chris, so when I hear, a pedophile got arrested or something like that, I'm not like, well, the state is, I'm like, good. Like, I'll hear, a pedophile got killed in prison. I don't start a soliloquy about how, the state is, turning people into criminals I'm glad that the pedophile's dead. Like that, not just a pedophile, but some pedophile that actually victimized children too, like actually acted on their attraction is dead. Great. I hear a murderer got executed. Awesome. Like the state has, what's that?
If a murderer gets executed by the state, I'm not like
I'm not a fan of it. But when Dylan Roof gets killed, I'm not going to get terribly upset about it. I don't support the death penalty. Am I going to get upset about it? No. So with that said, if I were told that either, like you said, it either has to be this heavily socialist government or you make your own and come up with your area, it would be like Matt said, protecting people's lives, rights, and property. And of course, as an anarchist, I believe there is no such way for government to do this. But that in this this hypothetical, that's what it would be. That the police are stopping people from committing murder or arresting people who commit murder, trying to stop people who are assaulting people, trying to stop people who are raping people, kidnapping, theft, these types of things. And that would be it. It would not be, well, you're doing drugs, and people who do drugs are more likely to do X, so we have to arrest you for doing drugs. It wouldn't be red flag laws. It wouldn't be, oh, these types of guns aren't allowed. It would be, if you are either harming someone or actively working to harm someone, now you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
And that would be it. I would also have a lot of devotion. If we're talking federal government, there would be massive layer, and I'm not even sure how this would work, but there would have to be massive layers of accountability on the police. And I think I would probably, if the police weren't completely unarmed, they would at least not have this militarized, where, the average cop's driving around with a freaking 12 gauge or an AR-15, and they have easy access by making a phone call to a freaking armored personnel carrier. Like, there's no need for that. There's need for the citizens to have that stuff, not for the police. So that's what it would look like to me. So here is the third of 4 questions from Chris.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with Trump Time. So the big news recently is the failed attempt to purchase Greenland by Donald Trump.
Oh yeah.
And I guess the subsequent strained relations between Denmark and the United States because of that. And now it seems like there might be some insults going, at least in Denmark's direction, possibly the other way as well. And so I just wanted to know what the people at Muddied Waters Media thought about all of this. And specifically, number 1, do we even want Greenland? Number 2, what is Greenland worth? And number 3, was this really something that Donald Trump thought was on the table, or is this just something for ratings and all of that? Thanks.
So I think, first of all, it would be helpful if someone told Donald Trump that Greenland isn't actually that big. It's just the projection that makes it look like that they're taking a spherical image and projecting it out so that anything on the corners looks much bigger, that Greenland actually isn't that size. It might help. Might not help, but I think it might help. But
Is it? I thought it was bigger than it looked. Because they're trying to.
No, everything is, so the closer you are to the equator, the more exact the size is.
Right.
The further away you get, the bigger it's been made to look, because if you picture like an orange or something and you remove the peel and you try to flatten it out into a rectangle, you're not going to be able to. There's going to be edges missing. And so basically what they're doing is filling in those edges by expanding those corners. And so what ends up happening is the further up into the sides you get, the bigger stuff looks. So like Canada looks bigger than it really is, Russia looks bigger than it really is, Australia looks bigger than it really is, and Greenland looks bigger. It's still the biggest island on Earth. From what I've read, it has a lot of strategic significance. It has a lot of rare earth metals and all sorts of rare earth minerals and oil and things like that. It also has a relatively small population, and it also in Greenland, all land is government owned. So if the U.S. were to purchase Greenland, they'd actually own all the land there. Matt, I have a hot take theory on this, but I'll let you go first.
I know your hot take theory, and I was going to rip it off, but so since it's yours, I'll let you have it. I don't think he was actually serious about buying Greenland. I think that he did it just to put something in the news cycle, because I mean everything's been about not him.
Right.
So I think he wanted something in there. He's like, oh, President Trump wants to buy Greenland. Oh, God, what is he thinking? Oh, God, doesn't he understand that you can't just buy a country?
Can't buy Greenland, yeah.
Right, but like I think it was more of that than anything else. But I know your hot take, and that's also.
I kind of like your hot take too. I think it's some of it is real basic. So we get into this stuff with Trump where we're trying to figure out his 7D chess because he keeps winning. And so you assume there's like this, master plan. And I think it's a much more visceral thing with him. If you think, very simple, on any subject is Donald Trump what people are talking about right now? And if the answer is no, then the next question is, how can Donald Trump make this about everyone talking about Donald Trump again? And the reason that works is because if you can suck all the air out of the room, and we've talked about this countless times, if you can suck all the air out of the room and you're the only person anyone else knows, no one else can really get any traction, and a lot of people will just go, I'll go with Donald Trump then. And
Right.
it has worked for him. As we've said, no Democratic candidate is going to beat him. The only thing that is going to beat him is if the economy goes south between now and Election Day, especially the closer it happens to Election Day. And that's looking like that might happen. But anyway, so I think it was, like Matt said, kind of this, no one's talked about me since that whole thing about, the last thing I lost my mind of, what was it, send them back or whatever. And so the next thing is, I do think he was asking about Greenland, about, buying it or whatever. I think he let it leak because he wanted the attention, but also because if you look at the scheduling, Trump was scheduled to go there this month, and then Barack Obama was scheduled to go there like 2 or 3 weeks later. Now, Donald Trump is incredibly unpopular everywhere, but also in Greenland. And Barack Obama is incredibly popular in Greenland. And so if you think of the optics of Donald Trump visits, gets a polite, sterile reception from the and it was a state visit, so the Queen of Denmark, who, the Danes own Greenland technically.
I didn't think he was going to Greenland. I thought he was going to Denmark.
Denmark, I'm sorry. And I meant Denmark. He's thank you, because I was going to keep saying Greenland. He's incredibly unpopular in Denmark and in Greenland. Obama's incredibly popular in Denmark. So he's going to go there on a state visit, get a very sterile but courteous and cordial reception from the Queen and the government of Denmark, with protests all over the place and the general public booing and hissing. And then Barack Obama is going to go there to open arms and, I like that. When I do this, his head comes in. Oh, yeah. Rest of the show. So Obama goes there and is what's that?
Get your Christ on.
Yeah. So Obama goes there to rapturous applause and, being beloved by the entirety of the Danish people. And those optics aren't good. Trump likes being the center of attention, and he does not like being made to feel small or weak. And those optics make him look small and unpopular. And so I think and there was no real plus to him going there, but he's not going to just cancel out of the blue. So this kind of gives a really weird, flimsy pretext. Well, since you're not going to let me buy Greenland from you, which I never actually asked you if I could, I'm not going to visit no more. So that's my hot take. I don't think he really wanted to buy Greenland. I think he asked some people about it, and they explained why it wouldn't work. And he probably was like, all right. And I don't know. If he really does truly want to buy Greenland, then that could be possible. That could be possible. But I think this was an example of maybe not chess, but checkers, where he thought, okay, if I float this thing and get them to say anything negative about it, I can say, oh, well, then I'm not going. But that's my opinion on that. And so here is our last of 4 from personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with your AOC Millennial Minute. So I think we've been running under the assumption for quite a while now that Donald Trump will get elected into his second term. However, we have had at least some indicators recently that we might be headed for somewhat of a economic recession. And obviously economy leads to elections, and we all know that. But I just wanted to know what the good people of Muddied Waters Media thought about if we if we were to enter into a recession, would that be enough, do you think, for one of these Democratic candidates to win, or is Trump still going to win regardless? Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, you've heard a lot of people say that economists have been saying that we are looking at a recession sometime in 2021. Now, if you looked at the study, it says that 34% of economists think that we're heading toward a recession in 2021 as early as September of 2021, I think is what the study said. 34%. That means that 66
Yes.
66% of economists don't think that. Now, but let's say the 34% are correct. Let's say that 1/3 of the economists are correct. That means that I've always said, I think Spike's always agreed with me. I'm not 100% sure. I barely listen to him now. He says that we've always said that it's the economy that is going to keep Donald Trump in office.
Right.
No matter
right.
what, it's the economy. I will throw in the caveat that if he goes with red flag laws, he is going to lose a big portion of his base. A big portion. But the economy is going to be the main thing that's going to get him reelected. If by the 2020 election, by November of 2020, if they believe that, if more economists believe, and like people are only saying that we're heading toward recession, there is a chance that he would lose, but you would have to see definite trends of the economy doing poorly. And Trump being the type that's going to suck all the media out of the room, suck all the air out of the room, he is going to point to job numbers. He is going to point to GDP. He's going to point to whatever it is that makes it look like the economy is doing great. And because Donald Trump is saying it, that is what's going to be reported.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that we are heading toward a recession the way that a lot of other people think we are. I'm also not an economist. However, right now, I don't think we are at a bubble point that is going to come crashing down on us quite yet. I think that we are still building up to that, and I think that it's going to screw whoever's next.
Yeah, so the next couple months will tell a much bigger picture, because right now we're in the middle of stock crashes and a lot of talk about war with a trade war with China and stuff like that. And we're in a trade war with China. I personally think that we will probably be facing, if not a recession, at least a slowdown that's going to point to a coming recession sometime next year. And I hope I'm wrong, not because I particularly care who wins the election, but just because I hope I'm wrong. Because when the economy takes a downturn, people are harmed by that. So I hope that isn't the case, but I tend to think it is for two reasons. One, the bond yields have inverted, meaning that I think it's the 2-year and the 10-year yields have inverted. And that's typically an indicator of a recession, not always, but usually. And then the other reason is because the rate of margin trading, so that's people taking out short-term loans just to buy stock, is at the percentage of stock trades that are being traded on margin is at or near, actually above the highs that were reached just before the last recession started in the end of the middle to September of 2008. So I tend to think that we're looking at something happening soon. I will say this: if it crashes right after he gets reelected, like if it stays up enough so that he gets reelected and then it crashes, you're going to have what I would argue is a worst case scenario, which is a lame duck Donald Trump with Democrats controlling both houses of Congress. And that, my friends, will look like every nightmare you thought was going to come from Obama.
Yep.
Because he'll have Democrats in the majority and Republicans largely unwilling to fight against him because he will still have the cult of personality around him. We have all watched Trump supporters who used to use how pro-gun Trump was, explain to you why red flag laws are okay, assault weapons bans are okay, pretty much anything he says is okay. Or they'll say those things are bad, but they'll come up with these weird mental gymnastics about how, well, it's not really his fault. He's being pressured by the rhinos or whatever. They'll make whatever excuse they can, or even just outright refusing to acknowledge that he said that he supports taking away guns without due process or whatever else he said. They'll literally just say, no, he didn't. And that's what a cult of personality looks like. It looks like massive cognitive dissonance and pouring your hopes and dreams into an empty suit who doesn't even know you. And so I think that, yeah. So if it is going to crash, I hope it does it sooner before he gets reelected, because right after he gets reelected or I hope it happens after 2022, so that we're not dealing with Donald Trump and a Democrat-controlled Congress, because that would be an absolute nightmare. So that's my take on that. So speaking of,
So real quick, Bass.
okay,
Bass on the YouTube said, you guys do understand that pedophiles are anarchists. No, they're not. No, because most of the anarchists I know do not want to do harm to another person, while pedophiles strictly and sexually want to harm somebody else.
yeah, I mean, Jeff Epstein wasn't an anarchist. Bill Clinton, who might be a pedophile, definitely wasn't an anarchist.
Prince Andrew, not an
Prince
anarchist.
Andrew is literally a monarchist. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing that. Are there anarchists who are pedophiles? Absolutely. Are there? Yeah. Is that what makes an anarchist? No. I mean, anarchism is built around the concept of self-ownership. So, like, raping kids is not within that paradigm. Now, I won't say that you have to be a pedophile to be a statist either, but that certainly doesn't jive with anarchism. Fotini Henderson says, but Trump is taunting the Fed by name. All other presidents have been hands-off, timid sycophants with the Fed. I'm thinking maybe Trump in his dreams wants to end the Fed, but hasn't come out. No, actually the exact opposite. He's blasting the Fed for not lowering the rates and printing out endless streams of money even faster than they already are. He's criticizing the Fed for the exact opposite reason that the rest of us criticize the Fed. We criticize the Fed because they print out endless streams of money and devalue our currency that we're forced to use and use it to prop up endless government spending. What Trump is upset about is that they're not doing it at an even faster rate. So no, he definitely, there was a lot of talk that he was going to end the Fed or audit the Fed or the gold standard. He's done none of that. He wants to print out endless reams of money. If he could tomorrow print out $1 quadrillion and spend it all, he absolutely would. And he wouldn't care who told him the opposite. So no, actually his criticism of the Fed is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You will have Trump supporters complain about the Fed, and when I'll say, yeah, but he wants the Fed to print out more, I literally had someone say to me, yeah, but they didn't have to. So they were upset that the Fed had just lowered the interest rate and that was going to cause inflation. I said, yeah, but you know why they did that? Because Donald Trump pressured them for the better part of a year and a half to do so. And he said, yeah, but they didn't have to. So it wasn't Trump's fault for pressuring them politically to do it. It was their fault
for doing it.
For doing what he said for them to do.
And that is the same type of person that when Trump passes a red flag law will say, well, that's not Trump's fault. He was
pressured to do it. The rhinos voted for it. The rhinos and the Marxist Democrats voted for it. Okay, but then he signed it. Yeah, but he can't just stop everything. He's not perfect. I mean, they'll come up with the most absurd, and they'll start explaining, well, you gotta break eggs to make, no other president could have resisted gun control the way he has. except maybe Obama, who didn't sign any gun control into law. And in fact, his ATF deregulated, actually reversed some of the previous decisions they had about what types of accessories were allowed. We actually had an expansion of gun rights under Obama, despite all of his rhetoric. We had an expansion of gun rights, a net expansion of gun rights at the state and federal level under Obama. Not because he wanted it, but because Republicans actually pretended to care. Now we have Trump. Now imagine if we have Trump, who's getting defended left and right by Republicans, and Democrats who can leverage that. That's a nightmare. Speaking of nightmares, I guess that's the best segue I have.
I was like, I don't know if that's
Speaking of, I don't know. So we're gonna end this on talking about Hong Kong, the protests that are going on in Hong Kong. If you're like me, you're possibly wondering, what are they protesting exactly? Besides just communist rule, but they've been under communist rule since 1999. So why right now are they protesting? So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
All right. So these are my favorite segments. I don't know what's going on. What, Matt, tell me about it.
This is the Matt defends Joe Biden segment.
Right. So back in February, the Hong Kong government proposed the Fugitive Offenders and Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters Legislation Amendment Bill 2019.
Okay.
This was caused because security officials cited a recent incident in which Hong Kong residents suspected of murdering someone in Taiwan could not be extradited to Taiwan to stand trial for murder.
Okay.
So they created this bill that would send that, because Hong Kong has a no extradition policy. So they created this bill that would allow them to be extradited to other areas. I think just in that region. So China, Taiwan, areas like that.
Right.
This was the reason for it, because somebody that murdered somebody in Taiwan was a Hong Kong resident and went back to Hong Kong, couldn't be extradited. Like, no, we're not going to do it. So they created this bill. Critics have argued that this bill would reduce the region's judicial independence from Beijing, and that it would open the door to what some demonstrators have described as legalized kidnapping. And Chinese authorities would then pursue extradition of political dissidents, people who are against communism, under the guise of trumped up charges.
Okay, I see here. So part of what has been protecting Hong Kong from the rest of the Chinese government, besides their limited autonomy, is the fact that the Chinese government can't just extradite, say, oh, well, we want this person for XYZ, and then have the Hong Kong authorities arrest them and bring them to China on trumped up charges. Oh, this person raped someone, and they didn't, but they spoke poorly about communism, so now they get brought over.
Now they're going to go to the Chinese version of a gulag.
Right, exactly.
Right. So
I'm not going to say it. So
you were going to say gulag, weren't you?
Nope, sure was not. So that's when the protest began.
Right. So the protest began kind of back in February, March.
Right. Yeah, they've been going on for a while. They've only been kind of catching on in the Western media in the last couple months.
Right. Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, indefinitely suspended the legislation, and even apologized, saying that our explanation and communication work has not been sufficient or effective. But when she indefinitely suspended the legislation, she didn't end it. So at any point, what a lot of people are thinking is that at any point, they can put this legislation back in. They figured the protesters would die down and then they would put it back in. And
right.
Trying to get people rallied twice is almost impossible.
Right.
So they were saying, no, it's only suspended indefinitely. They can still put it up. They need to end it. They need to throw it out. They need to vote it. They need to say, we're not voting on this ever. They've also called for Lamb's resignation. But in addition to Lamb's resignation, the protesters are calling for the complete withdrawal of the proposed extradition bill.
Right.
The government to withdraw the use of the word riot in relation to the protest because that makes them criminals in the eyes of Beijing. The unconditional release of arrested protesters and charges against them dropped, so that way they can't get extradited to Beijing. And an independent inquiry into police behavior and implementation of genuine universal suffrage. This is what they are wearing. This is the picture that you see on your screen. If you're listening to us on Anchor FM or any other podcasting app, check this out on YouTube or on Facebook because you're going to want to see this picture. This is what the protesters are wearing. It's a blindfold, looks like it's soaked in blood, fake blood, I think, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It says Hong Kong police murders Hong Kong citizens. Hong Kong police murders Hong Kong citizens. This started because police have used a wholly unnecessary force against largely unarmed protesters. And there was a video that came out that we have pictures of the video up. These are two police officers. I think if you watch the entire video, it's an 8-minute video.
Yeah, it's like an 8.5 minute long video. Yeah. Yep.
These are two police officers. I think there were 3 in total if you watch the entire video, who arrested a 60-year-old man. I believe he was 60. Arrested a 60-year-old man who was not actually a protester, just happened to be there, but they detained him and he got injured during the arrest. They took him to the hospital. He was being repeatedly punched in the crotch and stomach, and they have some weird like torch light and they're flashing it in his eye, like right next to it. You can see it in the video. It's being held right up against it and just flashing it right in his eye. Personally, I think the crotch punch is worse. That's just me. But it's 8 minutes of them doing this.
Just torturing him, yeah. Yeah.
Right. To this 60-year-old guy who is strapped to a gurney. The video went viral, and the protesters started picking up a lot of steam. Initially, Beijing, they were ignoring all of it. They were ignoring the entire thing, but once all of this started happening, they started treating the protesters with extreme hostility. They labeled them rioters, which, again, is a crime in the eyes of Beijing.
Right.
Right. Like, if it wasn't for the internet and it wasn't for this catching on in Western media, this would be Tiananmen Square all over again.
Oh, yeah. It would have never gotten to this point. No.
Right. Beijing is seeing, according to a Chinese specialist, Adam Ni, Beijing now sees the unfolding crisis as something that is really destabilizing and challenges its rule and control. So these protesters in Hong Kong are being seen as people that are challenging the communist government of Beijing.
Yeah. And now, so we've actually got some good news from social media. We don't get it often. But Twitter is saying that it has has suspended nearly 1,000 accounts that they've suspected of being linked with the Chinese government and part of what they called a coordinated state-backed operation. And Facebook has announced the removal of several pages and accounts that they said were involved in coordinated, inauthentic behavior as part of a small network that originated in China and focused on Hong Kong. So the Chinese government is an interesting animal because they call themselves communist, but if you look at how they're actually set up, they're actually a fascist government. They're actually somewhere between fascism and communism because in fascism, property is privately owned, but heavily controlled by the state. So the state picks the so-called national champions, the winners of losers within within the corporate world. It's called the economic plank of it is corporatism. They heavily censor and rigidly control the speech of the citizens, and they tend to they tend to use ethno-nationalism or some kind of large group preference to try to scapegoat the smaller groups, which the Chinese people are like 90-something% Han Chinese, so they often are treating the ethnic minorities very poorly. There is a little bit more public ownership or government ownership of things in China than there would be in a classic fascist state. But they've been actually working to what they call economic reforms, which is essentially trading, basically selling those off to preferred Chinese billionaires and then rigidly controlling it. So they are transitioning into being the largest fascist state in history. They are not doing what the U.S. does, which is, engaging in war around the world yet, but they're laying down the groundwork economically and industrially to be able to do that in the future if they so chose to. They are focusing more on controlling their own people. So they have this social credit system where, if you speak poorly about the government, or if you, act in what they consider antisocial ways, which is usually just anti-government ways, you can't even get a loan. It actually affects your ability to do things. There's a guy, I forget his name, but he did these videos. He's a Chinese mixed martial artist, and he did these challenges where he would challenge the practitioners, the experts in these different and guys, if you're watching, anyone watching this, if you want to comment, if you know the person I'm talking about, but he would challenge people who practice these ancient Chinese martial arts to show that like just standard MMA, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and so forth, was way superior. And he would go and basically beat these guys up and say Kung Fu is no match for MMA or I don't know, whatever other Chinese martial arts there are is nothing, no match for MMA. He can't get a loan for a car, much less a house or anything else. They've ruined him. He didn't actually commit any crimes. He didn't do anything wrong, but because he was seen as disparaging the Chinese culture, he can't get a loan. The Hong Kong people who live in the richest area on earth, largely because of a market that has been for the most part left alone, and rigid protections of that, sees the writing on the wall that yes, we're the golden goose, but China doesn't necessarily want to kill us, but they definitely want to control us, and they're not taking it lying down. And I mean, Matt, they're out on the streets, and it seems to just be getting more and more intense. It doesn't seem to be de-escalating at all.
No, it's getting, each passing moment, it's getting worse. Like you may have seen anybody who's been paying attention at all to it. If you haven't, you probably haven't, but like you haven't seen this, but you may have seen pictures of the Hong Kong protesters, and they're all are all carrying umbrellas.
Yep.
Now, apparently it does rain there a lot at this time, but the main thing that they're doing is they're shielding themselves from police cameras, the deployment of pepper spray and tear gas that is being used to disperse the crowds. They're using the umbrellas as a protection against police surveillance and police overreach.
Yeah. Umbrellas. Because that's all they have access to. And I even saw this really interesting video, which I wish I had thought until now to actually get it. But if you look online, you could find it. Where it was showing protesters that were having tear gas shot at them, and instead of running away from it, which is what you would usually do, they would run. They had people that were wearing like these surgical masks and goggles, and they would go up with road cones, with like the orange road cones, and plug it up and put their hands on top of it, and that apparently stops the tear gas. And so they would, if they couldn't get to it in time to throw it back at the police, they would put they'd put the road cone on top and hold it there for a few seconds, and then let it up in the thing's inert, and they'd throw it back or whatever. So because of police brutality and fear of unjustified extradition, they've been calling for their own Second Amendment. And you have to think, these people who are huge in number and are able to effectively stop the Hong Kong police in their tracks with umbrellas. Imagine if they had guns.
That would force massive, immediate change.
If only there were a country that had well over 100 million gun owners and a government that infringed on their rights on a regular basis, because they'd definitely be able to stop that. If only.
If only.
It's a sad thing that doesn't exist.
So, for anybody, like, I doubt anybody watching this is trying to get rid of the Second Amendment, but maybe. But for anybody out there who's like, oh, there's no reason that you need the peak kings of the world, who's like, we don't need these weapons. We don't need these weapons. Look at Hong Kong. Look at what's going on over there. These people are fighting for their lives because a law is being passed that they disagree with.
Yeah.
And there's, you do not do this. This is our place too. This is our country too. This is our city. Do not do this. And they are fighting literally with their fists and with umbrellas. And they are stopping the police. If they had guns, this law would be dead.
Yeah.
It would be dead. It wouldn't be indefinitely suspended. It would be dead. Dead. And there would be no question about it. They want their rights to the Second Amendment for the same reason everybody in America should want their rights to the Second Amendment and shouldn't try to give it up every time something awful and terrible happens.
Yeah. Two things that I will say about this. One, imagine if the people of Hong Kong had the guns that the American people had. And then the second thing I would say is, imagine if the people of America had the grit and refusal to back down that the Hong Kong people had, or even better yet, that the original American people had. Or I shouldn't say original American people, the original revolutionaries had.
Right.
If only. But they don't. Bass says, are we going to get a Hong Kong Boogaloo, or are we going to get Tiananmen Square 2.0? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But we're not going to get Tiananmen Square 2.0 because of the internet and because news now travels. So it's not going to be like, people are going to know about Hong Kong. Tiananmen Square, it wasn't major news. They kept that quiet.
It got told about afterwards.
Right, but it wasn't while it was happening.
It wasn't while it was happening, and the China's economy wasn't so. This was before Chinese free trade. China's economy was not as heavily dependent on the West as it is now. The Chinese are growing a middle class. You don't have to go to war with China. You just have to have enough consumers who say, yeah, no, I don't want to buy anything from China. Or politicians who say, you know, because of the human rights abuses, we're going to start labeling stuff more closely that comes from China, or, you know, requiring that these changes be made, or we're not going to allow these things to be imported, or whatever. Because China's economy is built on massive speculative government debt. And in order for it not to crumble, they have to have double-digit economic growth every single year, pretty much in perpetuity. If you saw anything that really put forget a recession, if you even saw a fairly decent downturn on it, China would have to make the changes necessary in order to stop that. It's what Trump, I think, thinks he's going to be able to trigger with these trade wars, but it so far has not been happening that way. Because all it's really doing is just adding a tax for us to have to pay when we buy stuff from China. If governments were saying, or if individual people were saying, I'm not going to buy that because it's from China, and I'm not going to buy it from people that are, you know, abusing people's rights, or, you know, doing what they just did in Hong Kong, that would be way more powerful than any, you know, domestic consumption tax that would be put on it. I don't think you're going to get Hong Kong Boogaloo because they don't have any guns.
Right. Nope. And we posted something a while ago.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We posted something a while ago where somebody said, it was a picture of the guy and the girl in bed, and he was like, I think she's thinking of other he's thinking of other girls, and he's like, how do I airlift guns to
To
how
Hong
do I
Kong,
airlift
yeah.
guns to Hong Kong? And we had somebody that commented on it, and they said, we don't need to get involved in another war. That's not what that was saying.
Yeah, no. We're not talking about U.S. government intervention. We were talking about like individual people sending
Right.
crates of
You
guns to.
sending crates of guns to Hong Kong so they can fight this battle.
Right. Yeah.
And
If someone could airlift even 1,000 semi-automatic rifles, it would completely change all of this. Now consider the fact that Americans own something like 10 million
it's like
semi-automatic rifles.
It's like 1/3 of the world, of the entire world's
Stockpile of small arms is held by private American citizens.
And we're all for it. We are not saying anything bad about that.
No, that's a great thing.
Great thing.
My problem is that most of those people have Fraternal Order of Police stickers on their car. Anyway,
The thin blue line right above
the thin blue line. I mean it. Anyway, next to their "Don't Tread on Me" bumper sticker.
Right.
Anyway, I like the don't. I saw one. It had "Don't tread on me," and the snake had a thin blue line, and I'm like, who is? Is it a cop saying "Don't tread on me" with your, wanting to know if you're being detained? I don't get it. I don't get it, guys.
I don't get it.
I don't get it, but I'll tell you what I do get. Anchor FM. No. So
that's what I was like, are we doing another Anchor promo?
Anchor FM. We're just doing like 5 Anchor FMs. I do get, you know what I get is a hankering for protection by personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law. Anytime I have a personal injury issue in are you guys considered southwestern Florida? The Tampa Bay area?
Tampa Bay area.
The Tampa Bay area of Florida. I go to personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
That's right.
I get the protection I need and deserve. So, I think, did we confirm that Jason's having an episode tomorrow?
I don't know.
Okay. So tomorrow, Shabbat Shalom, we may or may not have an episode of...
If Jason doesn't have his show tomorrow, I'm airing mine that I did today.
Okay, so tomorrow night, you're either going to get an episode of Mr. America, The Bearded Truth with Chris Lyon, or you will be getting this week's episode. What'd I say?
Chris.
Jason Lyon, Mr. America, The Bearded Truth. I keep seeing Chris's face. It's messing me up. With Jason, look away, Chris. Mr. America, The Bearded Truth with Jason Lyon. Or I might wear this all the time now.
He's our main sponsor, so
he is our main sponsor. I love it. I'm probably gonna send one of these to Jason too, just so we'll all have them. Or you'll be having this week's episode of the Writer's Block with Matt Wright and his guest Aaron Nakamoto.
That's right.
And then tune in next Monday possibly for an episode of Mr. America: The Bearded Truth. So you have a baby.
And you think you can just take all this time off work.
And then suddenly,
like, granted, it's the job that doesn't really pay you, but you're just like, well, I got to throw that one away.
Oh, and he has a new job too. So you get a new job and a human being that you're not solely, you and your wife are solely responsible for it.
Right.
And all of a sudden,
on top of the other child you have.
Oh, I don't have several hours a week to do a show on Facebook and YouTube and float.app/muddywatersmedia/live and all the podcasts. So that might happen Monday. And then on Tuesday, be sure to tune in next Tuesday for an all-new episode of the Muddied Waters of Freedom, where this guy over here and this guy over here and this guy right here are going to parse through the week's events with the joy and love of a sweet summer boy. And then next Wednesday is an episode of My Fellow Americans, my 48th episode. I may or may not have a guest. I may just do an Ask Me Anything. I do want to talk about, not now, but on my show.
Your AMA.
What's that?
Your AMA.
Yeah, my AMA. I do want to talk about the surprisingly Marxist history of the founding of the Republican Party. You won't believe what I'm going to say next Wednesday.
That's right. And then next Thursday, join me for an brand new episode of The Writer's Block with Demetrius Minor from AFP Project 21, local minister. He's just like, this guy, he must work harder than anybody ever. He does work for conservatives concerned about the death penalty with
okay.
Hannah Cox. He does work with AFP on campus free speech. Project 21, where he tries to give black people a voice in the conservative movement. And he's a minister.
And he's a pastor too.
Yeah. Yep. That dude is constantly working.
And yet he was able to carve out an hour for you too.
Two, because we got lunch together first. He wanted to interview me before he came on the show.
Oh, because that's actually smart.
Yeah. Yeah. So we sat down.
No one's actually ever vetted me.
Yeah, no, he vetted me. He was like, yeah, let's get together for lunch. And I was like, okay. So we got together. We went to this place in downtown St. Pete called Bodega for Cubans. And we had lunch. We talked. And he was like, yeah, okay, I'd love to come on your show. And I was like, great.
Cuban sandwiches, by the way.
Right. Yeah, we didn't steal Cubans.
It's not Miami. So
not the Keys.
It's not the Keys. So Matt, if we were, that'll be really, I'm looking forward to that too. Those are 2 writer's blocks that are coming up back to back. Boom, boom, boom.
Coming up quick.
So Matt, if someone were on the World Wide Web and were looking to find us, is that even possible, and how?
Luckily for people who have internet access, they have the ability to find us. They can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Muddied Waters of Freedom. They can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Muddied Waters Media. Mm-hmm. They can find us on Twitter at Muddied_Waters. You can find us on Instagram at Muddied Waters Media. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Muddied Waters Media. And you can find us on Float at float.app/Muddied Waters Media. And you can find us on Anchor FM at anchor.fm/Muddied Waters Media, maybe. And you can find us, find this and every other episode at muddiedwatersmedia.com.
That's awesome. So, as Jacob LaBelle said, it is time for Jeff to nuke Beijing. Guys, for those who don't know, real quick before we go. So, according to the Federation of American Scientists, roughly 15,000 nukes are in existence in the world, the vast majority of which are owned by either the Russian government or United States government that they developed during the Cold War. Then there are several hundred that are owned by France and China and the United Kingdom and others. And then down there at the bottom, somewhere between 1 and 9 nukes are owned by Jeff.
Do you don't know who Jeff is?
I assume he's either in Florida or South Carolina.
That's fair.
But Jeff, I'm not saying I want you to nuke Beijing. I don't want you to nuke Beijing.
No, but the protesters.
I'm just saying you could nuke Beijing. Well, you have nukes. It's another thing to say you could actually get them to Beijing. But all I'm saying is if you know a Jeff in your life, leave him the hell alone.
Yeah, because Jeff has nukes.
There is a Jeff who has possibly more nukes than Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
And my best guess is he's somewhere in the U.S.
Jeff is in the U.S.
That's good old Jeff. So guys, thanks again for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. And where we're going,
we don't need roads.
Mic check, yo. We still here? Still going strong, yeah? Are you down with Zuby? Yeah. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. 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 I've been on the rhyme since I made a first appearance. I've been on the grind, never waited for the clearance. Life is all the time, so I'm gonna live it fearless. Yeah, and people gonna hear this. Made a little name with a vision and coherence. Never been a lame, now I'm closer to a genius. Knowledge in my brain, chalk it up to the experience. Still I'm not rich, but at least I ain't broke. Never sell dreams, cause I'd rather sell hope. People so lost in the mirrors and the smoke, think I'd be a realer bloke if I said I sold dope. Nope. But my fans will tell you that I'm awesome. I started selling and they bought them. I told them get them and I got them. So if you want dope bars, that's not a problem. It's time to put the needles on the wax. Rock hard like I got the Beatles in the back. Go soft, make it easy living off the map. Or I can go hard like a freaking cheetah on the track. I'm grinding from a zero to a stack. And I'm talking about De Niro getting jacked. If Wakanda needs a new king, I'ma go hard to be the leader of the pack. A needle in a stack and I'm feeling to attack. Not a baller, no T'Challa, but a hero and I'm black. I'm an eagle to a rat, rebel demon on a track. I'm a scholar and a brawler, you don't feel it if you're whack. You're always talking evil in your rap. And I'm trying to put my meanings on the map. I gave you 12 rules for life and kept my room clean. I'm the Jordan Peterson of rap. Yeah. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. And I believe what I prophesize, so I don't apologize. Unless I do wrong, I don't bow to the mob, I don't live to antagonize. But they say I'm too outspoken. They wonder if I'm joking. Look, a little bit is jest, but I say what I feel, man, I'm real and I'm open. Trust in God, but I live in the physical. Selfish thoughts, but I give in the lyrical. Thought cops hot, want my speech to be criminal. Lies get fought when I speak the political. I am not left wing, I am not right wing. I just know all these things I know. You cannot label me, you can't put shame on me. When I say go means go. Fresh, I step into the premises, kick dope rhymes and they love how I'm expressing it. Hop online and reply to all the messages. Gotta spend time and I'm grateful that you cherish it. Don't talk crap, no, I'd rather be irrelevant. Can't play dumb, people know that I'm intelligent. See me up late night, big beard, let 'em in. 12 years deep now, I'm flowing like a veteran. Dudes show love, now I'm moving up in eminence. Girls show love cause they're feeling all the pleasantness. Got huge dreams, I can never be a pessimist. Too much love, I can never be a feminist. Girl, stop looking all incredulous. I am not a bad man, I am not your nemesis. Always had a mega drive, take it back to Genesis. Worked so hard, time to reap a couple benefits. Yeah, I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance.